Hello, greetings from Mobility Outlook and welcome to Mobility Conversations. Today we have with us Mr. Raghavendra Vaidya, Managing Director and CEO, Daimler Truck Innovation Center India, shortly called as DTICI. He is going to delve deeper into the technology and the innovation focus at the center. Welcome, Vaidya.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking part in this. Thank you for your time.
Happy to be here.
Thank you. So I would like you to take me through the evolution of DTICI.
Yeah, sure. So a little bit of a history, which started sometime early last year, where the Daimler Group globally was a holding company holding the 5 entities, which is the passenger car, vans, trucks, buses, and financial services. That company was split into 2 companies, one focused on passenger cars and vans, which is predominantly a B2C business, where we make the Mercedes-Benz cars and Mercedes-Benz vans. And the second business was the commercial vehicle business, which is predominantly focused on trucks and buses globally, right? This is what happened at the global level, and both these companies are listed separately today, okay? So what we had here in India was an engineering and IT center focused on all the entities of Daimler, right? So as a consequence to what happened globally, we also split the engineering center and we created a new entity called DTICI, Daimler Truck Innovation Center India, which is focused on vehicle engineering and IT for Daimler Truck and Buses globally. Okay. So this entity came to life on 1st of December last year, which is also the date when the 2 entities were split in Germany and then listed separately later in December. So we took the engineering and IT work that was happening in the other entity, which was dedicated for truck, and we took it out and we created this new entity.
Okay. So that means DTICI is one of the large-scale R&D of Daimler for software, electronics, and IT, right?
Correct. And that, and then more than that, we also do a lot of work in vehicle engineering area, which is the mechanical and electrical engineering, but a large part of the focus is on software and electronics for the trucks and buses that we manufacture globally.
Okay. From software, electronics, and IT perspective, what are the current developments going on at the center?
Well, so if you see globally, what is the focus of Daimler Truck, right? The focus is we are the largest manufacturers of commercial vehicles globally, right? Yeah. We have phenomenal amount of market share both in Europe and in US. And then we pretty much do business all over the world. Okay. So if you look at the major focus areas of Daimler Truck today is basically on 2 things. One is on the zero emission vehicles and other on software and electronics. So zero emission vehicles, no surprise there. We're trying to move from internal combustion engines, which uses the fossil fuels, to battery electric vehicles, which run on batteries and then provide zero emission vehicles. And then we also, since we are a commercial vehicle and we need extended range, we're also working on hydrogen-based fuel cell vehicles. So that's one focus, which is the zero emission vehicles. Okay. And the second is really around software and electronics, where we want to drive innovation, which is based on software and electronics, because that is going to be the future of how we make our vehicles better. So that's the focus for Daimler Truck. And then our focus is also derived from that, where we have a large team which is focused on software and electronics, producing vehicle software, onboard, offboard software in all sorts of domains of Daimler Truck. And we also have teams which work on the zero emission technology and engineering.
Okay, so does that mean the center is away from the IC internal combustion engine related trucks?
No, right. We also work on internal combustion engine related trucks because, See, it is a transition. It's not like one day we switch and then
Yeah,
go from IC engines to battery electric. It doesn't work like that. It's going to be a transition, and the transition will happen at different points in time uh, in different geographies, right?
okay,
And for many, many years to come, internal combustion engines will be required.
yeah,
But as we progress through this decade and the next decade, the focus of investment will shift from
yeah.
internal combustion engines to battery electric and then fuel cell electric.
Okay, okay. What is the center's role in the traditional vehicle engineering? Um, design such as chassis, engine, aggregates, transmission, or even that after treatment, exhaust after treatment, etc.
You pretty much listed the things. So in the traditional engineering area, we have engineers who work on chassis, on cabin, on engine, on after treatment system, on transmissions,
Mhm.
and so on, both for the conventional IC engines and also for the electric vehicles. So there are teams which are working on all these areas of
Okay.
engineering.
Can you let us know some research carried out by the center?
Well, if I were to take one example of the control software for battery electric vehicles, right?
Mhm.
So when you go from internal combustion engines to battery electric vehicles, one of the most important things is how do you use and distribute the available energy, right?
Yeah.
Uh, from the batteries to different areas of, let's say, a bus. You need energy to move the bus, of course, which is through electric motors and e-axles. Second is you need the energy to either heat or cool the bus, right? And then you need energy for other aggregate functions like opening the door or steering and electronics and so on. So one of the things that team has worked in many last few years is developing this control software for a brand of bus called eCitaro. This is a
Mhm.
100% electric vehicle, which is currently in use in Germany in many cities,
Yeah.
and entire control software, the battery management software, the way we call it, was developed here in India. And this is a very complex software, and this is something that all the OEMs are doing it right now. It's
Okay.
not like it's been around for a decade and we know how to do it. So there's been a lot of development in that area. The entire control software was developed here in how do you distribute energy, how do you make it safer, how do you charge faster but safer, and so on. So that I would say is one of the biggest developments. And then we are continuously improving the software as we get feedback from the field, right?
Okay.
So because Europe is a very cold region, a lot of energy goes into heating during winters
Yeah.
and reduces the range, right?
Yeah.
As against summers are not that harsh, so you
Yeah.
don't need a lot of energy for air conditioning, so the range is different. So the way you use this energy is very different based on the different conditions. So that software was entirely developed here, which I would say is one of the key areas that we worked on.
Vehicle architecture is one interesting thing about the entire development process, right from the chassis development, the dimensions, the placement of battery, especially when it comes to electric vehicles. Do you work on these intricacies?
Yes, so battery packaging and entire vehicle, what we call as a DMU, which is digital mock-up, is
Mhm.
something that we do at the center, where when a new variant comes out, we do a DMU which shows which component goes where and what kind of engine we are going to use, how much space it's going to take, where we're going to place our transmission, and how we're going to package the whole thing. That entire vehicle concept and the packaging of batteries, which is very critical because the batteries are quite heavy, and then if you don't place them properly, then the entire aerodynamics of the vehicle gets affected. But the short answer is yes, we do work on those things.
Okay. Placement of battery, as I said, is very critical, and some companies are working on, in the commercial vehicle space. You must be knowing better than me, placing in between the chassis or towards the front or towards the rear, depending upon the vehicle configuration. So, do you also work on such details?
No, absolutely. So, where we place the batteries depends on the variant of the vehicle, and whether it's a heavy duty, whether it's a medium duty, or whether it's a light duty vehicle. So those engineering problems are also worked upon here. Yes.
Okay. So, in that case, your option to standardize no things will get reduced, correct?
Well, yes and no, because one of the things that we do here in DTICI is we work with all the regions and all the brands of Daimler Truck and Bus.
Okay.
Means we have a bird's eye view of how different brands and different variants are engineered. So one of the things that we do is we take a best practice from one region and
Okay.
implement it in the other region. We
Okay.
take a best practice from one brand and implement it in the other brand.
Okay.
Because these brands are very different. The trucks that we sell in Europe, the Actros line of trucks or e-Actros, is very different from Cascadia and the Freightliner trucks that we sell in US because of the local competition and the requirements of the geography. But at the core engineering, there is a lot of commonality we drive, right? And that is one of the unique selling points of this DTICI, where we have engineers who are working on all these products, so they know what works where, and then we try very hard to standardize the engineering solutions across regions and across product lines. So the way I kind of characterize DTICI is this is the melting pot of engineering and IT for all of Daimler Truck. So we are the center where we pretty much know what kind of engineering we are doing in different areas, in different parts of the world. And we try very hard to standardize this and bring the best practice from one region and one product to another one, which none of the other engineering teams are positioned to do.
So, how many centers are there across the globe?
Well, we have engineering centers in our main locations like Stuttgart, Portland in US, and in Tokyo in Japan. These are the headquarters of the three large regions we have. So we have engineering teams in those regions. We also have smaller centers in Mexico, which is a nearshore location for US, and in Turkey, which is a nearshore location for Germany, because Turkey is our manufacturing hub outside of Germany, and there is a lot of advantage in having a small engineering center because it is close to Germany, they can speak the language, and so on. But outside of our main headquarter location, this is the largest engineering center.
Okay. Since in India also, I think no Daimler has manufacturing unit which is celebrating 10 years of
Yes,
its
yes,
operation now, DICV. So, what
correct.
kind of do you also get some inputs from them?
Yes, absolutely. So DICV, Daimler India Commercial Vehicles, we make Bharat-Benz line of trucks and buses for Indian market.
So,
And then, say that again?
no, Fuso also, Fuso brand.
Yeah, so those two brands we sell in India, and then the Fuso we manufacture and export it to rest of the Asia, right?
Yeah.
We don't sell the Fuso brand here, we sell Bharat-Benz. So yes, absolutely, we work very closely with them on engineering projects. Basically, on the electronics and software side, they do their engineering themselves, but there are some special projects we work with them. We just celebrated 10 years of launch of Bharat-Benz, and I was there in Chennai along with my leadership team. It was a great celebration.
Yeah. Do you have a lab set up at the center, virtual or the real lab for the engineers and scientists to know, touch and feel, and then work on the development process?
We have labs, what we call as hardware in loop, HIL,
Okay.
HIL lab. where we test our ECUs, the electronic components that go into the truck. We create a hardware in loop using those, and then we test that. But we don't have, and we don't plan to have any large test benches or proto shops or any of that kind of stuff. We don't intend to do that. Most of our work on the engineering side is focused on the digital part, which is design, manufacturing engineering, and CAE, where we simulate a lot of the conditions in the truck, which will reduce the proto requirements. But we will not have a lot of test benches and engine testing facilities and all of that. That's not the strategy.
Okay. Coming back to the IC related vehicles, OEMs world over, I think they've started looking at beyond Euro 6, Euro 7, and they are working on several technologies, primarily in the non-hardware related, primarily focused on software. What's your experience in this?
Euro 7 is something that all the engineering teams are working now, from powertrain to aggregates to software. So Euro 7 is a very stringent, set of, regulations. So there are teams here who are working on the next generation, heavy-duty engine, which conforms to Euro 7, and that also has components on the software and electronic side, where they have to work with that set of regulation. So I think there are lots of projects which are underway to conform to Euro 7.
Okay, I have read recently that vehicle manufacturers across the globe, especially US and Europe, focusing on capturing emissions from non-powertrain related aggregates, for example, tires and brake shoes. These two are related to even electric or any new mobility vehicles. Brakes and tires will be there for EVs and fuel cells, etc. Is there any work going on here to capture emissions and then address it?
I'm not sure if we are specifically addressing that, because that's a very small part of the overall thing. And you're absolutely right, brakes will be there in all types of vehicles, and so will tires. But our braking systems and our steering systems are extremely advanced, at least in Europe and US. I don't see that as a major focus. The major focus right now in getting to zero emission is around powertrain and aggregates.
Okay, fine. You said you have testing pertaining to hardware in the loop, and that. Do you, if you can, elaborate a little bit about that, on the testing part of center?
What happens is when we put an electronic component which has a lot of software in it, it actually controls all the aspects of truck, whether it is torque, whether it is braking, whether it is steering, whether it is air conditioner, and all of that. So the way it works is we develop these components, get the software, we test it on the individual test benches with providing software inputs, and then the ultimate test happens inside the vehicle. So between the component test benches and software in loop testing and vehicle, we have a very important component which is called hardware in loop, right? Here we simulate the vehicle conditions as close to the actual vehicle condition as possible, right? Okay. And then we run a series of test cases, both positive and negative, where we see how the electronic component is controlling the truck, right? We have things like, we have brakes. How does it control brake? How does it control torque? How does it control the lights? And how does it control the HMI, the user interface? So this is an extremely important aspect of software validation, which will reduce the vehicle testing time. Because if you find bugs in vehicle testing, it's a very long loop to go back, fix it, do the validation, do homologation, do the software in loop, and come back to vehicle. So the more issues we find and fix in Hill, the faster it is. So we have a very, very advanced Hill labs here, and a very large hill engineering team, which is continuously trying to simulate as many conditions as possible and find as many issues as possible, because it's a quick round of testing.
Okay.
And also there are very stringent requirements on when do you put this electronics and software in a truck and certify it for road testing. Until it passes the hill engineering, it is not certified to be on the road.
Okay. So time to market, that's a key determinant for any OEM, when they have a product. So to what extent DTICI helps Daimler headquarters in squeezing the time to market?
So time to market is a function of a lot of things, because the development cycle of a new truck is pretty long, right? Because you start with cabin, you start with chassis, you start with powertrain, you have the engine that it takes. But what we focus here, and it is going to be our focus for future, is how do we shorten the time to cycle of software features, right? So we already have hardware in the truck. We already have electronic components, and we already have software. But if we want to develop a new feature, right? If it is a software only feature, then you can develop and deploy it quickly, because all you need to do is develop the software, test it, validate, homologate, and then you can flash it over the air, and boom, the truck gets a new feature, right? Today we are not there, but in future, what we are developing is what we call as a Daimler Truck operating system, which will enable these software-only features to be developed in quick time, right? Because if the feature that you want to put in a truck, whether it's a safety, whether it's automation, whether it's connectivity or autonomous driving, if it involves hardware, it is a long cycle. It is many years, right? Because you have to develop the hardware and there's a series of things that you have to do. But if you can make it work only with a software update, which is what we are striving to do in the next years, then you can be developing this quickly and then deploying it to tens of thousands of trucks which are already in the field. That creates new stream of revenue, and that makes the truck better without having to update the hardware. So time to market for us is a focus around software features.
Software features. Okay. So correct me if I'm wrong. When you develop a universal software for Daimler and deploy, how do you say, is it the right word? Deploy in the other systems, there could be a challenge where, because many of them use different versions and etc., and then you need a middleware in between. So who plays the role of that middleware, whether DTICI or you will outsource?
The way we look at it is each truck is based on a certain architecture. And I'm talking about architecture on the software side, right? So we have 2 to 3 generations of architecture in the field, right?
Okay.
And the changes we make, the features we provide, the way we deploy the features and the software is entirely dependent on architecture, right?
Okay.
Like 667 is an architecture, and it has a certain set of ECUs. It has a certain set of capabilities, and there is a series engineering team which is continuously working on making it better. And then there are 2 more generations of architecture after 667.
Okay.
But you can't port the features between architectures very easily, because architecture comes with a certain capability, both hardware and software, and that architecture will do certain things certain way. So we have a very platform and architecture based a way of developing and deploying features, but we try to make sure that we are continuously enhancing N-minus architectures.
What percentage of design and development is happening at DTICI?
I think it's almost impossible to say what percentage, but it suffices to say that outside of our large headquarters, like Portland and Stuttgart, this is the largest engineering center. And this also has engineering, the way I would call it is sheet metal to software, from mechanical engineering to chassis to cabin to powertrain and all the aggregates, to software and electronics and the IT systems that actually support this infrastructure. So we have developed capabilities across all of those. And that is the uniqueness of the center, where we have the breadth across vehicle engineering and IT, and we have the depth within each aspect of this engineering. And this is something that does not exist in any other center.
Okay. If you can help me understand the state-of-the-art technologies and tools deployed at the center.
Well, state-of-the-art technologies within software are basically, the advanced middleware that we develop for different ECUs. This is very complex, very complex embedded software. We used Simulink, MATLAB, those kind of tools for functionally simulating the software. And we also write a lot of software for middleware, which is extremely complex. And these are written on top of real-time operating systems because these are safety critical features and they have to provide feedback on real time. So these are microcontrollers, not microprocessors, because microprocessors don't have the same response times. On the vehicle engineering side, this is absolutely the bleeding edge of the technology because our trucks are absolutely the most complex and most advanced. Not the ones that we sell in India, but the ones that we sell in North America, Brazil, and Europe. So the kind of engineering solutions we provide to these trucks is absolutely bleeding edge, whether it is the transmission, whether it is the engines, whether it is the aggregates, or it is wiring harness and chassis and so on. So I think that's what we do, and that's also how we attract the best and the brightest engineers, because they will not get to work on such complex engineering problems outside of Daimler.
What are your short-term and long-term plans?
So the short-term plan is really to communicate what we stand for, what we do, what is our positioning within Daimler Truck ecosystem, to the India ecosystem here, because people need to understand what DTICI stands for. The long-term plan is really to solve some of the toughest and complex problems within software and electronics for Daimler Truck and zero-emission vehicles, because these are the two areas which will provide us the competitive advantage.
Vaidya, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sparing your valuable time and talking to Mobility Outlook. Thank you so much.
No problem, Mr. Murli. Pleasure.
We must meet in person soon.
Oh yeah, we should. I think things are getting better, so in-person meetings should happen.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, take care. Bye.
Thank you.